Hi everyone. All right, so today we are going to be talking about box model. Okay. Before we get to that, though, I want to go over working with CSS classes and what are called CSS ID selectors. Class selectors and ID selectors. Okay. So we have talked about, so over the last couple classes, we've been doing CSS, cascading style sheets. And normally we might write something that looks like this. So this is exercise 1 in the files for today. And I could write a CSS rule that looks like this. So this is my selector. And so what this means is that it's going to go look through my HTML and it's going to find every time that I have a paragraph, and it's going to use the following properties, right? And so the thing about, and we could apply whatever we want. This could be, I could apply red text, or I could change the font to something new, like Courier. I'm just going to preview this. I'll preview in a browser. And you can see it's affecting it. Now, a lot of times people will ask me when I'm teaching CSS, they'll say, well, what in this case, what if I didn't want every single paragraph to be affected with the same settings? What if I only really wanted, say, the first paragraph, the second paragraph, or maybe just the first 2 paragraphs to be affected, but not all 3, right? And the answer is, well, at the moment, with just this method, there is no way to do that. Okay, you would have to apply it to every P tag or every H1 or every A tag or whatever the selector is, because that is what we refer to as a tag selector. Tag selector selects based on the name of the tag. Okay, there is another way to create a selection though for CSS, and it's called a class selector. So a class selector is different from a tag selector in that it's developed, or it's created, I should say, by the developer. Okay, who is the developer? You are the developer. Okay, so you as the developer come up with the class name. It can be anything you want. It can be, you can name it anything you want as long as you don't use spaces, don't use special characters. A special character is like $, ampersand, exclamation point, something like that. Can't start with a number. Okay, so I could come in here, and I've actually already created a couple classes that you can use. So one's called red text. So to create a class, you basically type a period, and then you give it a name. As long as it doesn't have spaces or special characters or start with a number, then you're fine. And then you can just define whatever you want your class selector to be. So this could be text color, background gradient, whatever it is that you like. So right now I have a red text, a blue text, and a green text class that I've created in this exercise 1 here. I'm going to save, and I'm actually going to, let's refresh. And you'll notice that nothing here is red, green, or blue in terms of the text, right? Now, I guess I take that back. Some of it's blue, but that's actually the default color. That's not because of this class selector here. So the answer is, well, okay, we created these classes. Why are they not working? And the answer is, so when you create a class, you define it and then you say whatever properties you want. It's a bit like a label maker. That's usually the analogy I like to use. So let's say you had a label maker, right? You're organizing, you're making labels with your label maker, right? Well, you can make a label, but if you don't actually apply the label, then it doesn't really do anything, right? So that's kind of like what, with what we're doing here. It's like we have these classes, but classes by themselves don't do anything. You have to apply them in the HTML. So what I'm going to do here is, let's say I want to apply this green text class. I would go into my page, my HTML. Let's just hypothetically say I want to apply it to this paragraph here. I can type in the phrase class. This is an attribute, so it goes inside the tag. Class equals green text. Okay. So it's going to take whatever the value of green text is and apply it here. So if we go back, refresh, you can see it's being applied. I'm going to go to the second paragraph here. Class equals green text. Okay. So one thing to note about this, about my classes, are classes can be applied as many times as you like. You can apply a class 2 times, you can apply it 20 times. It doesn't matter. It's however many times you want. You can also apply it to any type of HTML tag. So here this was both a p tag, but I'm going to go to this h1, which is a completely different tag. And I can still use that class equals green text. Or maybe I'm going to go to this hyperlink, this a tag here, and apply class equals green text. I'm going to save and go back, and you can see the a tag was affected, so was this h1, and so were these paragraphs. Okay, so I can not only apply it as many times as I like, CSS classes can be applied to any HTML tag. Okay, it doesn't matter what tag it is, or you can always apply it to any tag. All right, so I could come in here. So I've been using green text. Maybe I would come in here, and I'll use the class equals red text. And maybe I'll come here, class equals red text again. Okay. Boom, boom. I'm going to go to exercise 2. So in the last one, there were already some existing classes. Let's try some here. So I'm going to preview this. So it's pretty much kind of like the first one. And this time, instead of using an existing class, let's make our own. So I'm going to make a class called favorite. So I hit period, type it in, as long as there's no spaces and no special characters. Let's start with a number. Let's make it purple and, oh, I don't know, Arial black. And let's do an underline, just for fun. Okay, there's my favorite. I'm going to come in here and apply it. Class equals favorite. Okay, purple, underline, Arial black. Maybe I'll go here. Let's try it to this paragraph. Class equals favorite. Okay. I'm going to make a second class called second favorite. Once again, just define it in your CSS document. No spaces, no special characters. Color equals red. Text decoration equals line through. And I don't know. Font weight equals. Actually, instead of font weight, that would make things bold. Let's use font style. That affects making things italic. Let's go in and apply that. So I'm going to go class equals second favorite. And we'll do the same here. Class equals second favorite. So I'm applying it to this H2, heading 2, this heading 3. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe let's make one more. Third favorite, I don't know. Not being super inventive with my names here, but hey, you know. Let's do pink. And text align right. And let's use text transform uppercase. Sure, why not? Let's do it to this paragraph. Class equals third favorite. Apply it to this one. Class equals third favorite. Save. Oops, favorite. Okay. So you can see both of these are also being affected. All right. So I have, we learned how to make classes. Okay. We're also going to learn how to make what's called a CSS ID selector. Okay, so I want you to think about what an ID is. So I want you to think about what an ID is in real life. Think about, like, say, a social security number, you know, or a passport number, or even your Chabot, you know, college ID number, right? Everyone has their own unique ID number, right? What's the point of it? Well, the point is that it's unique. No two people, even if they're identical twins born 30 seconds apart, they look the same, they dress the same, no two people are allowed to have the same passport numbers. No two people are allowed to have the same social security numbers. And even if both, you know, identical twins went to Chabot College, they both wouldn't have the same Chabot ID number, right? So IDs are a way to specify something and make it unique, okay? So once again, CSS ID selectors are a bit like a class selector in that it is created by the developer. Once again, who's the developer? You're the developer. Okay. So you can create an ID selector. Unlike, so with classes you use periods. With IDs you use a hashtag. Once again, similar sort of naming conventions to classes. Don't use spaces. Don't use special characters. Can't start with a number. Okay. So I'm going to go into exercise 3. And I'm going to call this one primary. So notice that I created it with a hashtag. There's no spaces. There's no special characters. And I'm just going to let's set a background color. I'll set, I don't know, yellow. And let's set the text to red. And let's set the text to Arial black. Okay. And I've created my ID. I'll save, and let's preview this as exercise 3. I'm just going to preview it in a browser. And like, you know, it's set up as kind of similar to the exercise 1 and 2, where there's some headings and some paragraphs and whatnot. And you'll notice that I'm not getting anything with like a yellow background and red text color, because like a class, IDs aren't defaultly applied. You have to apply them to your HTML. Once again, think of it like a label maker. You know, if you create a label, it doesn't do anything unless you actually apply it to the thing you're organizing, right? So, you know, I want to apply my ID. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to my heading 1, and we can use the HTML attribute ID. ID, like it sounds like, applies an ID. I'm going to apply the name of my ID, which is primary. You don't have to repeat the hashtag, just the name. All right, so this is going to reference this. I'm applying this to my heading 1, and you can see I'm getting the red text that's Arial black based with a yellow background. Okay. So you might go, well, this seems really similar to classes. Why do we have two different things? And the answer is, so classes can be applied as many times as you like. CSS IDs, because they're unique, right? That's what makes it ID and ID, are applied only once per web page. Okay, so you only use an ID once per web page. That's the major difference. There's a couple other ones too. ID selectors are also easier for JavaScript to reference. So if you wanted to write JavaScript code that would reference a part of your HTML page, using an ID selector is easier than using a class and some other methods. So there's reasons, but the main one is that you should really use an ID when something is unique. Okay, not something you plan on doing many times. If it's something you're planning on doing multiple times in the same web page, then you would want to apply a class in that particular case. So I'm going to make another one just as a reference here. So let's do secondary. Let's do light green and color green. Let's do dark green. And font family Courier, maybe? So I just made my ID. Once again, I'm going to refresh. Nothing's going to happen because I have to apply it. So let's do secondary. Okay, there you go. So that's how you create an ID selector or a class selector. So, why do we do this? Well, maybe you're doing the design and you want to apply some sort of CSS property like a background color or a font or something, and you only want to affect specific parts of your page. You don't want to affect every single p tag or every time you have an image. You just want to affect certain aspects of your page. This is where a class or an ID is useful. Whether you should you use a class or ID, well, ask yourself, is this something I'm doing once, or is this something that I might do multiple times in a web page? If it's multiple times, chances are then you really should be making a class. If it's something that is unique, like for instance, the location of a part of a page or something like that, then that's where an ID would probably be better to create and use. All right, so try that out as exercise 1, 2, and 3.